Honestly, at this point, I think we already know that Vlad and Greg have a very strong, interesting bond and relationship, but Vlad and Greg were star-crossed lovers from the year 1332, and I feel like I'm the cause of that fandom rising, but it's okay. And I'll do it again, because honestly, at the end of the day, vampires and werewolves are the most interesting occult I've ever played with in my entire life. Even though I don't play with them that much, I find them very fascinating in movies and TV shows. And I wanted to give them a sense of life and a breath of fresh air in The Sims 4 and see what I could possibly do. But before I even do that, I want to actually build a little secret werewolf hideout for Greg so he can go to there secretly in Forgotten Hollow, which is basically right next door to Vlad's mansion. And honestly, I feel like they should really get along, and if this works, this might be a good thing for us. So when I tell you this whole Vlad and Greg situation has been going on for the past couple of days, I truly mean it, because I'm not joking. Ever since they announced the werewolves, I was thinking, oh my gosh, Twilight, I can recreate Twilight with Vlad and some werewolves or whatever. But then I was thinking, what else could I possibly do? I mean, there's a lot of situations I can create, a lot of different things I can do with build and buy and cast, but what about gameplay? But ever since they did their live stream a couple days ago on Twitch, I was looking at it here and there, but not as much because I wanted to be surprised. But my friend Rochella, my good purple yellow loving friend Rochella, tweeted about Greg wearing a wedding ring on his finger. And my brain immediately went through the whole scenario of Twilight and how that happened and what went down. But I also realized that Vlad is an old decrepit vampire who cannot die. But also what's interesting that is Vlad is a young adult and Greg is an adult. And so I feel like in the year 1332, a little storytelling here moment, 1332, Vlad and Greg were star-crossed lovers in the Yeon olden days in university at Brightchester University. They had a class together, one singular class. It was an elective type of thing because, vampires and werewolves don't really get along. And usually what happens is that Greg will literally fight a vampire on site because he hates vampires. And I feel like the sole reason why he hates vampires is because of Vlad. And Vlad was his secret lover for so many years, for the past 100 years, and they broke things off after they got married, after the whole council, the vampire council and the werewolf cult council found out about their relationship, and they said if you do not break up with Vlad or you don't break up with Greg, there will be serious consequences. And so basically Vlad and Greg had to cut things off after so long, and secretly, wholeheartedly, I feel like they're seeing each other, but not as much. More so in plain sight in the deep dark of night, at 2 a.m., maybe midnight, because that's usually when Greg shows up and he's not really seen as much. And I wanted to give them a proper little hideout or a proper little place that they can go to in Vlad's world, because that's technically where Vlad and Greg technically met so long ago. And I wanted to give them a place that they could hang out. So I built this werewolf hideout with a structure of a home, but also a deep underground basement, mainly for werewolves. But I feel like Vlad is the exception. If it's in his world, he should also be able to come here at any time that he wants to. And I feel like this is a vampire werewolf friendly, hidey hole place, if it makes sense to you all, because I always felt when I was ever watching Twilight, I knew that werewolves and vampires always had this secret feud going on after so long. But then I also felt that they got along in different periods of their lives, that they could tolerate each other. And Vlad and Greg, they tolerate each other, but they secretly want to be together one of these days. And I'm trying to find the possible way where one of these days that they could be together forever and everyone could be happy. Because hear me out. Sim Guru Bat on Twitter literally made an entire 6-minute video. It was a whole voiceover video, and I listened to the entire thing and I loved it. And they go in so much more detail about well, not really detail, it's not really an official thing. It's more of a fan fiction type of story that they created for Vlad and Greg, because I had the absolute audacity of re-quoting or retweeting with a quote on my friend Michelle's tweet about why or why Greg has a wedding ring on his finger. It's like, what if Greg and Vlad were star-crossed lovers from so long ago, but their secret love had them split apart for so many years that they finally could be together? And it's like this whole other thing, this whole thread of different stories and different scenarios from different people. And I feel like I'm the cause of this whole like Vlad and Greg type of situation of involving them two, where I'm thinking there's lore, but there actually really isn't any lore. I'm just using my imagination of what I think could be a cool thing to add into the game. Like for me, I love storytelling. I love lore more than anything. My friend Plumbella loves lore more than anything, more than I do actually, I find. But it's like this whole story of supernaturals. There are long-lasting, forever-longing beings that have been on the earth for so many years, or I guess in Sims terms, the earth, that they have this sense of history, the sense of story that hasn't been told for so long that you can only read in history books, but you don't really get to full understand who they are unless you actually meet them, or they're part of like your family lineage and you have those stories from there. But I feel like, in a sense, that Vlad and Greg, this whole situation has been kind of hard for them to realize that maybe it's for the best that they split up, but it's also maybe for the best that they should accept each other for who they are and not change anything. Because I've always felt that Vlad and Greg should be together forever, and no one can ever like tell them to tear them apart. And I feel like as for me, as a person who just loves chaos of anything, I think that it'd be really funny to see how the relationship will uphold in the whole sense of Moonwood Mill. But I don't know. I think that ultimately at the end of the day, they're occults. What can you really do? You can't do much, but you can do a lot with them. There's a lot of replayability, I find. Like, I got early access to this game pack, and I am so wholeheartedly like happy that I did, and so grateful that I did, that I got to do this like little deep dive for myself before I made any videos about it, because I want to make sure I understand the pack before I'm actually recording something and not just spewing out words of not any knowledge, because I'm a busy person and I don't got a lot of time. And so I told myself I'm going to prioritize my health and my mental health before I do a quick and dirty video that makes no sense, because sometimes when I speak, it makes no sense. And so I feel like taking the time for myself to collect my thoughts, my opinions, and my ideas and my storytelling to make a whole video would be way, way better for me, and I think also for you all as well. But regardless, like I said, I love werewolves, I love vampires. I don't really get to play with them that much because I didn't really play with them in the older games, but I feel like with the Sims 4 occults in general, they have been way better ever since they introduced, I feel like vampires, for me at least. Vampires were like the first occult that I really actually enjoyed and still play with till this day. And so when I'm able to incorporate a rival occult like werewolves, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I'm so excited because I'm like, ooh, my Twilight fandom dreams can finally become a thing. Because I didn't play with them in The Sims 2 and I did not play with them in The Sims 3 as much to go on a full like craze of recreating the entire backlog of Twilight. But now I get a chance to do it today in The Sims 4. So I'm going to do bit by bit and recreate them as I see fit. Because the first house I'm going to build is Bella Swan's house in probably Moonwood Mill, because it has like a nice, Forks, Washington vibe. It's very foggy, gloomy. It has like that nice, cool, rich look to it that I think could make sense. And plus, there's actually an empty lot in that world that you can build on, or you can demolish any of the other builds that James Turner, formerly known as the Sim Supply, built and build your own. But I want to build on that empty lot to see what it can do and ultimately kind of create my own story out of it. But regardless, I have a lot of ideas and I've just been so excited just lately because I've been in a rut lately of like figuring out what I want to do for like videos and what like kind of videos I want to do for like Let's Plays. And now that I have a time and a place and a sense of self of what I want to do, I now can feel happy that I can recreate Twilight in The Sims 4 and like not fully like word for word or like, character by character, but like this is the general like vibe of it all. So I want to create the houses. I want to recreate a little bit of, Bella, Jacob, and Edward, maybe even the whole Cullen family. I really don't know. I can't make any promises, but that's what I really want to do. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but sure enough, I am going to try. I know my friend Momo Misfortune loves Twilight. They love Twilight, and I feel like they're gonna recreate Twilight in The Sims 4 at some point on their stream. I really don't know, but we can only hope for the best that they will, because I love Momo. Momo's really great. They're a wonderful streamer, lovely person in general. But, I have this secret obsession about vampires. Like, I loved watching Underworld. I loved watching Twilight. I loved watching Blade. I loved watching, all these like Vampire Diaries, the originals, even Legacies, and then also some other like supernatural type things. And so I've had this weird fascination of like, can I make a Tribrid? I have this weird, crazy like vibe of myself in my brain of thinking, what would a vampire, werewolf, and like wizard spellcaster baby would be? Because ultimately, you can't have all three at once. It'd be weird and kind of impossible. But I feel like having some type of like, vampire, as the mom or the dad, whoever, and then like having a werewolf and being the mom, the dad, whoever, but having like the ancestors are a line of like witches, and then they have like the spell, and they have like all this like thing going on. I don't know. This whole thing in my brain's like, can I make it happen? Because I just might do it. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, but I don't know. But I'm just really, really excited about werewolves. I haven't been this excited about playing with occults probably since vampires, but also probably since we haven't had like toddlers. And I can finally wholeheartedly say that I'm actually really interested in playing the actual game and doing Let's Plays on it where I'm having actual fun. I don't know. Something about werewolves and the whole fascination about Greg and Vlad being a couple makes my brain spin and makes me want to scream like nobody's business at the top of my lungs. But what can we really do, honestly? What can we really do? But give me your thoughts and opinions of what you think about Vlad and Greg's relationship. It's not really a thing because in the game, they literally hate each other, but we can fantasize. We can, imagine them in a relationship from the 1330s, but still, we can make do with what we have in our brain. But ultimately, I feel like, at the end of the day, I am definitely going to give Vlad and Greg the life that they deserve in a video series that I do here on YouTube and see what it can possibly do. Because I feel like with Vlad and Greg, they have this weird bond that they can't comprehend very clearly, and they can't comprehend on like where they should live, what they should do, because neither of them have a job. Greg is basically homeless. Vlad is a rich Vlad daddy vampire, and he lives in a mansion, so he has like all this money and all this like this richness about him. He's a master vampire. And then Greg is a full-blown like werewolf, like top of the line werewolf that no one really gets along with him as much. And so I feel like they are kind of like they work together. But we got to do what we got to do. We got to make sense of what we can have in the game, what makes sense of what we can really actually feasibly do in the game. But can we just talk for a minute and just express how much I love the Sim Gurus so much? I haven't seen, well, they're always excited about, every pack I find. But I feel like over the course of the couple of days since the announcement of werewolves, I feel like the Sim Gurus on Twitter, it's not all of the Sim Gurus who make the game, but the Sim Gurus on Twitter, basically, I feel like that they have been so wholeheartedly more excited than anything I find. Like, I don't think I've seen them this excited about a pack, especially about occults, in a very long time. And that makes me happy that they're happy, and I cannot wait to see what they do next. And so ultimately, this makes me excited for like the next pack that we get, because the quality of the build and buy items are like my aesthetic. I love anything abandoned. Abandoned builds are my true gem. I can spend all day on building something abandoned in The Sims 4, and I can't stop. Like that desk right there, top tier. I love it. I like the idea of scratched up, rugged furniture. It gives me very rags to riches vibes, which is another challenge that I love playing all the time, which I just might do eventually one of these days, and see how I can really make money with stuff in the game. But I don't know. I think that I really had a lot of fun building this, and I cannot wait to build like another abandoned build, but probably a Moonwood Mill. Probably like after or before I built Bella Swan's house, because it's an actual floor plan on Airbnb, or there's an actual floor plan on like Google, but you can actually like stay in Bella Swan's house in their actual home where they filmed, like, you know, the home that they lived in for the movie. And it's on Airbnb. Like if you look up Bella Swan's house, Airbnb, it'll be the first link you pop up. Like, I'm not kidding. You can stay in that house and it's gorgeous. I love it. Awkwardly shaped, but I love it either way for the movies because they didn't show everything, not all the weird angles, but nevertheless, it's a good house. And I have to say, I just might rewatch Twilight tonight. I don't know. I'm just so excited, but who knows? Either way, I'm going to go and actually do the real-time tour of this video because I want to show you all the things I did in real time, because I cut out a lot of things in this video that you did not see, and I kind of want to explain a little bit more about the build and what my thought process was, because my brain was like Greg, Vlad, Vreg, Vlad, Glad. The whole fandom is just where my brain is at right now. So I need to like tell you in real time without all it sped up about the build, because ultimately I think you all need to know how much I'm excited about werewolves, but also how much I'm excited about building this build in Forgotten Hollow. So first and foremost, I am very, very, very excited about this build because one, the roof texture is so my aesthetic for abandoned builds. You have no idea. So I am very pleased about the roof texture. I could live in moss every single day in The Sims 4, just not IRL because I'm allergic to that. So I live vicariously in my game, point blank period. But regardless, this entire lot is in Forgotten Hollow and it's kind of straight across from the Vitor family, but it's on a 30 by 30 lot, and I made it a generic lot since we don't technically really have any lot traits for werewolves per se, or like any lot challenges. So I just kind of used it as a generic to use my imagination. But of course you can change it to a residential or do whatever you want with it. But however, I am very, very pleased. I built a part of this on stream and then I built the rest of it by myself. But ultimately I wanted to go with something more abandoned, more like luxurious when it came to landscaping, plants everywhere, moss on the roof, moss on the ground, scratches on the ground, some weird like wolf's bane on the ground as well, a little bonfire of some broken furniture, which is honestly pleasing. But I am just so beyond like ecstatic about this build. Like, it's a small build, of course, but I have to say it's probably one of my best work I've ever done with a new pack that I really like fully enjoyed, minus like cottage living, of course. But something within occult kind of changed my perspective of how I could make my builds different, but also add my own personal personality and spin to it to see what I can possibly do. And so having all of this, including like only using base game and the werewolf pack, definitely made me a little bit more creative, and I'm glad that I stepped out of my comfort zone and tried something new to see what I could possibly do with it. Now, for the inside though, I wanted to keep it very small and like not too cluttered, because I felt that with werewolves, they're always moving around, they don't stay here that long, and it's more of like just a hangout area where they can come in, come out as they please, and sleep here if they need to. That's kind of why I made it a generic lot rather than a residential. But I felt that as in a sense that they're going to come here, they're going to be who they want to be. So they have like a bunch of like sitting areas, a bunch of like mirrors and knickknacks over here. Of course, a little small little TV with a nice recliner chair, which has a nice little cup holder in it, which I think is really cute. I have to say, I love all the swatches on this lovely chair right here, especially this one. And like maybe this one too, but like everything about the seat is so realistic. And I like how it's so like messed up and scratched up and broken, which I love, like all the cracks on it and everything, including like this chair over here. And honestly, the people who made this pack and the people just behind it all in general just did a phenomenal job on it. And I don't remember who, but I saw a tweet about it and I forget who it was. But either way, the cracks and the scratches on the floor and the wall, thank you. Because ever since we got the Vampire game pack, I've been obsessed with using cracks, cobwebs, all the above on my walls and on my floor to make a very abandoned, cracked up build. And this pleases me. This is only like the small 1% of what I can do with cracks and scratches for the floor and wall. Because best believe, besties, I'm about to go full blown cray cray with these things. But anyway, this kitchen right here, I didn't know what to do with it, honestly. I just kind of made it look, you know, simple and plain with a little desk in the kitchen, which is probably unconventional, but you know, werewolves, they don't need a computer. They don't really need that much stuff. So I added one anyway because it's abandoned, not much going on around here. And then upstairs, I gave it a little bit more of a family session. So I added in all the new beds that we got with the new game pack, like the bunk bed we got, the singular bed, along with the new toddler bed and the bassinet. Because I felt like a family of werewolves would live here like full time, or they would just come here if they so please, or just whoever. And like, let's say a werewolf is having a baby, they can have a baby on this lot, and a little baby could, you know, be crawling around or whatever. But I think it's like a really cute, soft, adorable bassinet with a little sheep at the top, because I think werewolves would eat sheep. But I am just wholeheartedly amazed by all this. I also have to say, I love all the yellow swatches they have put in this build, or in the pack in general. And you know how much I love yellow. Yellow is my aesthetic, so the more yellow, the better, just saying. Here's a little bathroom over here, but the main event is actually this secret little build here, this little hidey hole. And it's actually an underground little layer, I would say. But I wanted to make sure this was a little bit more normal as possible. But downstairs is where the true magic happens for all your werewolves. And I have to say, I am in love. Like, to me, I feel like your werewolves could like jam out, hang out, do whatever. Because I put a little guitar over here, and like also a desk, and so another desk over here. And I think I also added in a bar, which I thought was actually going to be too big, but it actually kind of worked with the size of this general area that I built. And I also added in a little seating area for arrangements of whatever it might be, because it could turn into a bar if you wanted to. And then, of course, some broken furniture and some workout equipment around here. Now, this right here is more of like a tunnel entrance, and I heard in the live stream that your werewolves or whoever can actually go through this and go somewhere else in the world and use it as like a passageway, which I thought was a really cool way to integrate into this werewolf build. So who knows if it works in Forgotten Hollow? Maybe this is how Greg gets in and gets out of Forgotten Hollow without being seen by some random werewolf that he may or may not have a beef with, because ultimately, Greg's not well liked in Moonwood Mill, I find. And he's not well liked in Forgotten Hollow either, but he sure is liked a lot by Vlad, and that's why their ship name is Vreg, Glad, you know, other ship names. You know what they are. If you know them, let me know in the comments below, because these ship names are about to go full blown like Heartstopper. We already know that show is always great. So Vlad and Greg should get the love that they deserve in The Sims 4, as always. But either way, as always, I do hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments below, as always, of what you thought of this build. I had a lot of fun, mainly just talking about Vlad and Greg and their ship names and their relationship, and like the story that I kind of conjured up in my head of seeing what they could possibly be if it was real, but also kind of showing them my build of what I did. And I kind of want to do another build like this in the future to go a little bit more deeper of why I think Vlad and Greg are, you know, secretly married, but don't really publicize it as much because of their feud of vampires and werewolves rivalry. But we can leave that for another video. But ultimately, as always, I do hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know down in the comments below as always, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!